Hello, my name is Corey Rutterkop. I'm the CEO here at the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce, representing the business community in Langley Township and City. And thank you for watching one of our candidate interviews in advance of the 2025 federal election on April 28th. We have invited as the chamber each candidate that's running in the three Langley ridings to participate in one-on-one video interviews with the chamber to introduce themselves to our community, to discuss their priorities and what they want to address if they are elected to go to Ottawa on our behalf. So these videos are going to be posted unedited on our website at langleychamber.com and then shared through our communication channels with all of our members and community stakeholders in the lead up to final election day. So today I'm joined by Aeriol Alderking, who's running in the riding of Abbotsford-South Langley, representing the People's Party of Canada. Aeriol, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too, Corey.
Why don't we
Thanks
dive
for
in?
having me.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us for this conversation. Did you want to, just as a starting point, did you want to introduce yourself and your background and what motivated you to put yourself forward for the election?
Okay, well, I have a diverse background in retail management, business, publishing. I was an employment counselor in various sectors, and I have firsthand knowledge of the community and how it works. I've been a participant on three different charitable boards and multiple different opportunities to volunteer in the community, as well as having chaired PAC in a DPAC rep and a BCC PAC rep with the parent advisory councils and the school system. I wrote resolutions that got $10 million released across this province to keep parents involved at the provincial level. So my diversity and background in business and charitable work, I think, positions me well for running in the election. The main reason that I chose to run is because of the choices that we were given, quite frankly. The nomination for the replacement for Ed Fast seemed to have some bumps and hiccups that were not particularly good for the process. And, you know, we need to get rid of corruption in this country once and for all. And the same thing for Mike de Jong, unfortunately, was Minister of Finance when we saw a lot of Chinese money laundering going on. So I chose to run to bring integrity to the process and to bring a different answer as well, because I don't believe that these parties and these people have the answers. I don't believe that getting into a tariff war with the United States is going to do us any good. They're 10 times larger than we are. We need to get to the negotiating table and settle these matters in an equitable manner.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And why don't we take that as a jumping off point? Because one of the questions I wanted to ask was on the tariff issue. Obviously, businesses in Langley and Canada are facing challenges due to both the U.S. tariffs that they've imposed and then the retaliatory tariffs that we've imposed on inputs and imports from the States. What do you think is the right approach for Canada to respond to this challenge, and how do we support businesses who are either exporting to the United States and being impacted there, or they bring raw materials or inputs into Canada and might be impacted by our retaliatory tariffs? What do you say is in your view the right way forward on this issue?
Well, the right way forward is diplomacy, very much an example given to us by Daniel Smith. We don't need to be getting into a tariff war with the United States. And the tariffs that they have suggested that they're going to put on, a lot of them are due to decisions that we've made to tariff their products. So we need to get to the negotiating table and work these details out. In the meantime, I don't believe in putting tariffs on Canadians and on Canadian businesses. That's just another tax to our government. And we already pay too many taxes. We don't need to have an additional tax on our people. So it's just going to cause productivity to drop down. People are already drawing back because of the uncertainty that this is causing. So we're seeing businesses cutting back on how much they're doing, and people are cutting back on consuming, and it's just causing the economy to shrink all the way around. So we need to get rid of the uncertainty and get a deal made.
Well, I think one of the side effects of tariffs that we're concerned about are obviously increasing the costs of things, and I don't need to tell you that cost of living and the cost of doing business is top of mind for our members and people in our community. And I'm sure you're hearing that in the campaign. What would you do if you were elected to go to Ottawa? How would you help make sure that Langley families are getting ahead? And how would you help make sure that our businesses and the cost of doing business is kept in check?
Well, one of the things that the People's Party wants to do is get rid of the supply management because when you control what the supply is, you cause the cost to go up. If we don't have our farmers and dumping their milk and their eggs, then the cost of those products can come down. And we don't have food security in Canada. So there's no reason for this. There's plenty of market to go around. Our farmers cannot uh, export their goods, and we in turn have to import goods from the United States because we don't have food security. We have to have food come in from the United States. So we need to resolve these issues and we need to bring it back to a place where people can sell everything that they produce. That's one of the things we want to encourage with the economy is productivity and investment and create certainty for people that what they have available they can actually sell. And the other thing that we have a problem with is that our farmers are aging out. They're at an average of 60 plus years. And if we don't get young people into farming, we are going to have some serious issues in this country. So that is a large sector. And then the taxes. If you have such high taxes, that in turn shrinks the amount of disposable income that people have to spend. And if they can't spend, then your businesses are going to suffer. So all of these, there's many, many different aspects to this, and all of them need to be addressed.
And I'm gonna pick up on one of your comments there around kind of how do we help young people, and you mentioned getting into that one in that one sector. But one of the challenges, and I'm gonna pivot here a little bit to more of a kind of a housing and infrastructure question, and one of the issues facing our community is the cost of I mentioned cost of living, the cost of housing, and finding places for young families to live and workers for our members in the business community to have workers locally. What are your thoughts on how to tackle this ongoing challenge we've had on housing affordability? And what's the People's Party's position on the housing market and the challenges we're seeing there?
Well, one of the challenges is that we've had very high immigration, which has put a lot of stress on the housing market. And so we have too many people and not enough houses. The rents go up, the housing prices go up, and it makes it impossible for young people to buy into the market. I'm very fortunate with my family. Both my children own homes, but the majority of people are not finding that to be uh, suitable to their income. So we need to uh, bring an end, a moratorium on immigration for a temporary period of time until we absorb all the people that we have and take the stress off of the services trades in the school system. We need to bring education and business together. One of the things that Des McKay did as principal of Mowat, which is where I was on the PAC at Mowat Secondary School, was he would bring in the business leaders to the school system. He would talk to them about what the different issues they're facing, and then he would implement those things into the school system. We became one of the most innovative and the top 10 high schools in the whole country. And this is what we need to be doing with young people is actually marrying them up with the business sector so that what's needed and the gaps are filled by our young people and not so much immigration, but actually giving the people that are here an opportunity to get into meaningful work.
I appreciate that. We had a little bit of a blip there with your internet connection, so we lost you for maybe 20 seconds. Maybe I'll give you a little bit more time. Did you want to? I think we lost some of your comments just around on the issue of young people being able to afford housing. Did you want to add anything else to that, just so we make sure we didn't lose any of your main points there?
Yeah, well, we need to get young people into the trades, into sectors where they can make good money and where they can um, afford to buy a home. And we need to bring the housing prices down. I mean, one of the things that we saw when the Chinese were bringing bags of money into the casinos was also it was being dumped into the housing market. My mother was a realtor in Vancouver. She would be trying to find a reasonable property for her clients, and the prices would be just astronomical because of the pressures of the Chinese money competing for those properties. they would often sell well above the assessed value. So we need to start dealing with the corruption that's coming into our country and this money laundering that's happening. And it was just recently discovered again that we had Chinese students bringing millions of dollars into the TD Bank in Toronto. This has to happen, that we put in some kind of barriers to these types of corruption in our society. We can't just have this influence heating up our housing market. We need it to cool down so that people can afford housing.
We have probably time for one more question, and then I'll give you a minute to wrap up here. But I wanted to kind of jump over now to maybe crime and public safety, which is a bit of a different issue. But retail theft, property crime, street disorder, those are concerns for the Langley business community and the community at large, frankly. And when you look at what the federal government can do, what actions would you or the PPC advocate for taking around repeat offenders, gaps in enforcement, and the broader social issues that are leading to street disorder in our communities?
Well, if you look at young people, I did a few things actually. For one thing, I put on major youth events to influence the youth against gang recruiting when I was we were the murder capital of Canada in Abbotsford. I put on these youth events. I brought in speakers, and we actually successfully stopped youth from joining gangs. We need to put actual barriers in that mean something. Right now, when people are sentenced, the sentence doesn't mean anything because they get double the time for any incarceration prior to the sentence, and then their sentence is usually half once they are sentenced. So it doesn't really mean much, and and they don't they don't end up in programs where they can get skills and so on when they're in short-term incarceration. When you're in long-term incarceration, then there are more programs available to actually help people to uh, garner skills and some other way of helping themselves. When there was a huge problem in the Indo-Canadian community because of the lack of support in the education system, especially for young Indo-Canadian men, there was some very good entrepreneurial supports that were brought in because it was seen that they had good entrepreneurial skills. And so there was some innovative programs that were brought in order to support them into getting into a healthier lifestyle.
Great. Well, that kind of wraps up our time here for the question portion. But I want to give you a minute or so here just to wrap up any final comments or thoughts on you and your candidacy and the PPC and a closing message to voters in your riding here.
Yes, well, I think first of all, I would really encourage everyone to shop with cash and by check because that would encourage people to avoid the digital dungeon that they're bringing towards us. I think also that Prime Minister Carney and his solutions are more looking at a probate of Canada, not helping Canada to get out of this recession. So we need to be careful about who we choose. We need to be thoughtful in this election. I represent integrity, I represent responsibility, and we would definitely balance the budget, cut the taxes, stop taxing seniors, cause more money to be available for consumers, and bring down the prices of groceries through true free trade, as well as strengthening our country from within with free trade agreement across Canada between the provinces. And that would strengthen our country. It would free us from the current situation that we're in. And I think that we would encourage a lot more business.
Great. Well, Aeriol, very nice to meet you. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us and our members, and all the best on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much.